Hi readers, it's me. I'm back. I'm going to pick up where I left off reading the true story of the shark attacks of 1916. I left you off at a very terrifying moment for poor Joseph Dunn, a real boy who was in the real events that inspired my I Survive books. So let's pick up where we left off. But Joseph didn't know what was happening to him. There was only one thought in his mind, that he was about to die. In the months leading up to the blazing summer of 1916, a mood of dread had gripped America. People were deeply troubled by news of a war, which would later become known as World War I, that had been raging in Europe for 2 years. It was a brutal war pitting Europe and France and other allied countries against the ruthless forces of Germany and its allies. Joseph would watch his parents' worried faces as they studied the newspaper each morning, their toast and coffee growing cold as they read about the latest battles. There were horrific descriptions of the fighting, the battlefield soaked in blood, with thousands of soldiers dying a day. With each passing week, it was becoming clearer that American forces would have to join the fight to defeat the enemy. Soon, millions of U.S. soldiers, many still in their teens, would be crossing the ocean and charging into deadly battles. What nobody yet knew was that another threat lurked that summer, one far closer to home, in the waters along the New Jersey coast. The terror had begun 11 days before the attack on Joseph Dunn on a New Jersey beach 75 miles south of Cliffwood. Charles Van Zandt, a 25-year-old from Philadelphia, was visiting the resort town of Beach Haven. He and his parents and sisters were staying at one of the most elegant hotels that lined the beach, and Charles was heading into the ocean for his before-supper swim. A strong athlete, Van Zandt loved swimming laps in the ocean, and today he'd made a new friend, a large golden retriever that had been playing on the beach. The two set out together in the water, two lone brown heads bobbing above the surf. There were dozens of people on the beach enjoying the late afternoon breezes before they headed to a hotel dining room for a fine supper. Van Zandt and the dog swam about 20 yards, and then, strangely, the dog turned and paddled quickly back towards shore. Van Zandt called to the dog, but the retriever was already back on the beach, shaking the salty water from its brown fur. Suddenly, shouts echoed from the beach. "Look out!" A few people standing at the shoreline could see what Van Zandt could not, a large fin knifing through the water. Van Zandt must have glimpsed the creature seconds before it attacked. It was a massive shark, 8 or 9 feet long, its jaws wide open to reveal rows and rows of 2-inch-long, razor-sharp teeth. The massive jaws slammed shut around Van Zandt's left thigh, the teeth tearing through his skin, his muscle, and into his bone. Van Zandt's screams rose up above the pounding surf, above the chattering couples and laughing children, above the clinking silverware and glass drifting out from the hotel's dining room. Many people first assumed that Van Zandt was shouting for the dog to come back into the water, but Alexander Ott knew something was terribly wrong. He was a surfman, a lifeguard, patrolling the beach. Ott sprinted into the water, and in less than a minute he had reached the young man. Van Zandt was desperately trying to stay afloat in water, stained bright red by his own blood. Fighting his rising terror, Ott took hold of Van Zandt's arms, but the shark struck again, once again locking its jaws around Van Zandt's thigh. This time the shark did not let go. 5 other men rushed in to help. Mustering all of their strength, they hauled the bleeding young man and the shark attached to his leg into shallower water. The shark's belly was dragging against the sandy bottom when it finally unlocked its jaws and swam away. The men managed to get Van Zandt to the beach. He was carried into a hotel lobby and gently laid out on a desk where a doctor tried desperately to stop his bleeding. His parents and sisters were with him when he died an hour later. The dozens of people who witnessed the attack on Charles Van Zandt had no doubt what had happened. He had been bitten by a shark. Many had seen the beast with their own eyes, that large dorsal fin poking up through the water, the pointed nose. Alexander Ott had been just a few feet away from the gigantic fish, close enough to look into its deathly black eyes. It was beyond question a large shark, but as the story spread, few believed it. Yes, Charles Van Zandt had been attacked by a large sea creature, but a shark? To most people, that seemed impossible. Most people believed it was a swordfish whose blade-like nose could easily slice through human flesh. Another possibility, a snapping turtle, people thought, a giant reptile armed with jaws powerful enough to snap a human bone in half. Only a few newspapers reported the incident, and some stories didn't even mention the word shark. Dies after attack by fish was the headline of a short article that appeared in the New York Times on July 3rd. Why did people have such doubts? So that's where I'm going to leave you today. But one thing I just continue to want to make sure you guys understand, and this was something that I kept learning as I was doing my research, was how rare shark attacks are. And that's one of the reasons that this was so shocking. Another reason was that in 1916, very few people swam in the ocean and very few people understood anything about the life of the sea. We're going to pick up again tomorrow, but there's one fascinating fact that I learned that's one of my favorite facts of all of my 10 years of research into the I Survived series. And here it is. You really don't have to worry about getting bitten by a shark because a person is more likely to die on the beach by getting hit by a coconut in their head than by getting bitten by a shark. So of course, this makes me very afraid of coconuts, but not afraid of sharks. So on that note, I will see you tomorrow.